بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is the last presentation in this session. هنكلمكم النهارده على موضوع relatively new, not the diagnosis but the terminology and the pathology which become more and more known to us. It's called myopic tractional maculopathy. Pathological myopia is terminology when the axial length is more than 26. When there is the axial length is more than 26, which is pathological myopia, it is subdivided into three types: atrophic, tractional, or neovascular. Neovascular like CMV, or tractional like the subject today is myopic tractional maculopathy. So the terminology myopic tractional maculopathy is now more recently used. Pathogenesis, there is multifactorial. There is rigid structures inside the eye, which is the blood vessels, the internal limiting membrane, and the rigid structure in the posterior part, which is the sclera. The sclera start to elongate. The rigid structures prevent the retina from elongating with the sclera, so the retina start to split. The splitting happens in many layers inside the retina, and those are the forces which lead to this phenomenon. The natural history, many times the condition is stable without effect on the visual acuity of the patient. But rarely, the visual acuity starts to deteriorate rapidly and the patient comes complaining of sudden diminution of vision. The traction goes into those stages, either splitting and the molar cells still attached, or there is a posterior detachment of the retina, total detachment of the central area, lamellar macular hole, like here, or full thickness macular hole, or macular hole with retinal detachment. Recently, one of our friends, Dr. Barbara Parolini from Italy, started to give more attention to this phenomena, and it differentiated it into the tangential traction, which leads to the formation of macular hole, or the anteroposterior traction, which leads to the formation of tractional myopic tractional maculopathy. What is the prognosis? If I have a patient like this, the more the good visual acuity preoperatively, the better visual acuity postoperative. If there is atrophy of the choroid, the prognosis is bad. What is the treatment? The treatment is either from inside, which is vitrectomy, or from outside, putting buccal to make the sclera go back to the retina. And Barbara gave this demonstration, which case can benefit from vitrectomy and which case can benefit from buccal. Many buccals are present. One of them is this, what we call endoplump, or our colleague in the institute, Dr. Ihab al-Rais, use helon to inject it suprachoroidal to make like a buccal to force the choroid toward the retina. And there is several surgical challenges in those cases. Those cases, the globe is very long. Our regular instruments cannot reach to the retina in those cases. And in many cases, during the manipulations, you can induce breaks and you can induce retinal detachment. So what are the tips and the tricks that I'm presenting today to manage those cases? First of all, to use longer instruments. Some companies make instruments which are longer and can be used to tackle those long eyes. Otherwise, you can remove the trocar. The trocar, which showed in our colleagues before, can be removed. This gives extra length for the instruments to go inside the eye. Or you move your both instruments more toward the 12 o'clock position. This gives more extra length for the instruments. And to use a flat contact lens. The regular biome systems that we all use cannot be used in those cases. They give very bad view. To manage those cases, you have to have a contact lens over the eye. This is my last case, which was 2 weeks ago. The patient presented to me with this picture. First time I saw him, I told him, you are not going to improve this vision is very bad. You have a chorioretinal degeneration. He told me, no, believe me, I was better than this since 1 week. So I did OCT. I found that he is true. He suddenly developed myopic tractional maculopathy in both eyes. I started to attack the left eye. And this is the operation. First of all, I inserted my trocars as usual, put the contact lens, and as you can see, the forceps cannot reach for the retina. So I removed the trocar, and again I inserted the forceps. The eye is very long. The forceps again cannot reach for the retina. So I moved the trocar more toward 12 o'clock. Now I can reach the retina. First, there is always schisis of the vitreous. There is many layers of vitreous. Double staining, more staining. I found the internal limiting membrane. I started to remove the internal limiting membrane. And as you can see, when I removing the internal limiting membrane, the retina is moving with me because there is a schisis and the retina is not anymore attached to the wall of the globe. As you can see here, while I am moving as if there is a wave, as if the retina is coming with me. This is a very frightening moment. I feel shaking my hand. Finally, I just put air and removed my trocars. And here is the picture post-operative after 5 days. Very encouraging. The patient improved from 360 to 636. This is another case. Again, the vitreous is present in layers, so you think you remove the vitreous, still there is more vitreous, and then you start peeling the internal limiting membrane. One of the tricks in those cases that the globe, because of the staphyloma, is not flat. It is like this. So while you are moving your forceps, sometimes you hit the retina and you may induce bleeding because you are not oriented that the staphyloma starts after very short movement. If you remove the internal limiting membrane, you shouldn't deal with those small breaks. They usually close by themselves. Again, when you are removing the internal limiting membrane, the retina keep on moving with you, and at the end, this is the picture. Again, the retina flattened and the vision improves. Another case, in this case, we have a full thickness macular hole, so it deserves a different management. It is again, please play. You do the same internal limiting membrane removal, but you take the pieces of internal limiting membrane and you stuff it inside the macular hole. By this way, you manage both conditions, the myopic tractional maculopathy and the macular hole. And this is the picture post-operative. And as you can see, the remnants of the internal limiting membrane, which is closing now the macular hole, and the patient regained very good vision post-operative. Another case, to stress that the vitreous is not one bulk as usual. It usually present in like layers, and many cases of those have peripheral retinal break, this combined tractional maculopathy and rhegmatogenous retinal detachment. For the sake of the time, this is the post-operative. Another case, I will not show the video, it is repeated, and this is the post-operative. Another case, and again the post-operative with the myopic tractional maculopathy resolved and the remnants of the internal limiting membrane covering the previous macular hole. Again, this case I used not the regular internal limiting membrane, I used amniotic membrane because the hole was very large. And thank you so much for being with us today.